saying that I hope everybody is doing well. We've had a lot transpire. The protests, the racial tension, the killings, it's just been a lot on top of COVID, right? Um, so I wanted to do a video, that was going to be entertaining and interesting and just kind of give us a break from all of the visual trauma and things of that nature that we've been experiencing. But I really just hope my subscribers and the people that watch my videos are in good spirits. If not, I'm sending you love and light. So today, the talk of the talk has been about Insecure. If you don't watch Insecure, please get into it. You don't necessarily have to have seen Insecure to relate to this video. I'm using it kind of as inspiration and as, an example pool. But it's been getting good. I know we was like worried because we was getting like filler episodes, but the last two episodes being really on point. We all happy to see Team Issa and Lauren like trying to kick shit back in gear. I'm concerned. That's a conversation for another time. He giving me, but we not together though vibes. Like that could potentially come. But I hope Lawrence is above that now. I really do. But one of the main focal points of the whole season has been about Issa and Molly's friendship. And so I felt like, based on the last episode, we kind of saw them decide that they were going to kind of walk away from each other. Issa tried. I'll be the first to tell you my perspective. I feel like Issa definitely put her foot out there, and Molly could have met her halfway. Molly is not looking to take any accountability for the tension that exists in that relationship, and that's not okay. So because I'm feeling, inspired by the episode, I wanted to chat with you guys about just pretty much how do you know a friendship has kind of maybe run its course? How do you know a friendship is no longer good for your mental health? And I used to do, when I was working at my last job, one of the groups that I would run was on friendships. And so I have some material here that I want to reference because I feel like it provides really good insight and exercise for people who are contemplating friendships in their own lives, as well as, just little, like I said, like tips and ways of understanding, like maybe it's time for me to remove, this person, or distance myself and love them from afar. And what people really don't, when you have close-knit friends that you end up having to put distance in, where you have to put distance in between you all, or you just don't know who they are anymore. You guys just aren't relating. Things just, you all aren't on the same page. It can be tough. It can be as painful, if not more painful than a breakup, because usually, this not just a friend that came and went. Like, this is somebody you've invested a lot of energy, time, and created a bond with. And we all know how hard that can be to kind of let that go. So we're just going to start off with some simple things. So one of the first things I usually do when I do the group, and I encourage everybody to do this. So I have this worksheet, and it pretty much has 5 boxes, right? 5 boxes going down and then 3 across. And so your friend's name will go in the middle, however many close friends you consider yourself to have. And then on the left side, you have what are their positive qualities. And then on the right side, you would list what are their negative qualities. And the goal of this really is for people to kind of see, is the person, and the importance of this is the ranking. So the first friend you list is the friend you spend the most amount of time with. The last friend you list is the friend you spend the least amount of time with. So what you really want to be able to gauge from writing this all out is pretty much like, am I spending my time with the friend who has the most qualities? Because again, like with the population I work with, they do this and they're like, yeah, the person I spend the most time with has negative qualities and they're not necessarily a good influence on me and what I'm trying to do. So you want to make sure that, you know how they say birds of a feather flock together, so I was actually going to do a video on that saying it counts, but not really. But in this case, we'll go with it. But pretty much, that you're influenced by the people you spend the most amount of time with. So you definitely want to be able to assess, does this person have a lot of positive qualities that I'm getting? Also, I think the interesting thing about doing something like this is the types of things you write down. Because sometimes, and we don't always do this purposely, but sometimes we really keep someone around or we keep them as a friend because of what they do for us, not necessarily how they influence us in a positive way or what we enjoy about them as a person, but what they do for us. So if you consider like this person is your friend, but they also your plug, and they've been getting on your nerves and they do a lot of things you don't agree with, but you don't want to let them go because they do X, Y, and they can get you into X, Y, and Z, or they could get you X, Y, and Z, so is that a real friendship? Or is this just somebody who seems to benefit you? So I'll leave that there. Again, you end up seeing a lot based on like what you say about a person. And if you truly feel like there are positive things you can name, because some people don't even realize until they do something like this that like they don't know if they really like the person like that. They may have used to, you know what I mean? And that's another thing. So when it comes to friendships, right, when we were young, our friends were kind of just given to us, right? Either your parents set you up on a play day, or you hung out with the kids in your neighborhood, or you hung out with the kids from your school. You were kind of forced into these situations to make friends, and you don't even realize that certain people aren't your friends and certain people are, just based on the fact that y'all are always around each other. So what ends up happening is like we attach to these friendships and then we carry them throughout life with us, the ones that seem to like really stick. But we kind of just like, oh, you like this, I like this, let's be friends. Like friendships when you younger is way less complicated. But as we start to get older, that's when we really start to choose our friends. That's when we really start to be able to identify what's important for us to have in a friendship with somebody and what keeps us bonded together, So sometimes time does that. We spend so much time in a school setting with somebody where they become our friends, but it's like when we come out of that, is the friendship still there? Is it still solid? So that's something else to think about. We have to be more intentional as adults when we make friends or maintaining our friendships. We can't just, everybody has a life. So our friendships start to look differently. We may not be linking up every weekend like we were when we were teenagers. People have kids, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends, fiancés. They have jobs and extracurriculars and, volunteer, and just there's so much going on where as an adult, it truly takes a different effort to maintain a friendship. So as far as how we know when it's time to leave a friendship alone, I'll go through a couple things. So the first one, your values and priorities change, and so how that comes out is that you have less in common. So you may look at somebody and their top priority may be to go to the club on the weekend. Your top priority may be to rest and recuperate and have a drink with friends because you're saving for a house. It's just different. Your priority may be your kid. Their priority may be, something else. So again, like when you start to, and that's the thing about values. Like some of us, you hear a lot of stories about, people who ran with the wrong crowd or ran with a crowd that wasn't that big of an influence. But when people want to come out of that and they start to get back in touch with their foundational values, you realize that like, I don't know if I rock with this person that way because I don't think we on the same page as far as what's important to us or what drives us. So another one, you got to walk on eggshells around them. Nobody wants to be in a friendship where, there can't be a healthy amount of humor, joking, or even just expressing an honest opinion or concern or idea. If you feel like, if I say this, they gonna be X, Y, Z, then it can be difficult to be vulnerable and to be transparent because now what happens is if you feel like you gotta walk on eggshells around somebody and you can't communicate in your most healthy way, you get passive aggressive. This looks like you shade, okay? I know some of y'all have been in friendships where it's like, you my friend and why you being so shady? Like, why? What did I do to deserve all of these trees around me? So that's a big one. You want to be aware like of certain jokes. Like again, we all know that healthy joking in a friendship is good, but if the joke starts to feel like attacks or like they're targeting you about whether something you insecure about, something new in your life. Like that part can start to feel, it can make you uncomfortable. So you definitely end up wanting to withdraw and not spend as much time or talk to this person as much just because of that. So you small like disagreements, they end up taking longer to get over. So usually, if you got a friendship, y'all may have some words or somebody may feel a way about what somebody else did or whatever the case may be. As adults, we should be able to be like, you know what, this is how I felt. This is the role I played in it, and then the other person do that, and then you be like, yeah, I know, we ain't mean that. Okay, all right, let's move forward. But if y'all fighting and it's getting drawn out for weeks and months, and that may mean, at a certain point, neither one of y'all feel like it's worth getting through or getting over, we're taking that initiative to reconcile. So if you can't recover from, little kind of pieces of shade or disagreements or things like that, then that might be a sign that what both of you all see is worth it as far as the friendship goes may not be existing anymore. And a part of that last point. So in Insecure, we see that like Molly's therapist asked her, was there anything else she could have done? This is the moment where she could have tried to hold herself accountable for the role that played in what happened between her and Issa. And she sat there and was like, no. So you gotta kind of keep an eye on people like that, because again, when it comes to friendship, sometimes when you apologize, it's not necessarily that you feel sorry for what you did. You feel sorry for how what you did made your friend feel. That's the gist of that. Like some people are like, why would I apologize? I'm not sorry. But it's like, your friend is hurting. So do you care that your friend is hurting based on what you did? Even if that wasn't my intent, because that's what people go to. Well, I ain't mean to. That's besides the point. The hurt is there, whether you meant to or not. So can you be grown enough to just to apologize for the fact that whatever happened caused hurt to your friend? And if you can't, that's a problem. Okay? And if they can, if the shoe's on the other foot and they came to you, that's a problem. Don't look past that, because again, it sometimes is bigger than what actually happened. It's about like, do you consider my feelings as far as the action that you exhibited? Another thing, so things kind of get swept under the rug. That is the worst way to deal with problems. And if you and your friend, y'all had arguments and y'all never really talk about, y'all just kind of get over it. Like I give you an example. One time, me and my good friend, I can't even remember what we were into it about, but we were both being stubborn. We didn't talk for like 2 months. What broke the ice was her texting me about some gossip, like some stuff that I needed to know, like about my ex, like just some stuff that we had been talking about, and she had to deliver the tea. And it broke the ice, which was cool. But you don't want to just leave the ice broken and not really go back to figuring out what caused the friction to begin with, or taking accountability for what caused the friction. Because again, that's when stuff gets, to me, that makes me feel awkward when I'm supposed to just be cool with somebody and act like something didn't happen. I could be cool with you after we acknowledge what took place. And I think that that's what's important about making sure you clear the air. Is, yes, y'all can kind of kiki and be like, girl, this was stupid. I'm sorry. You again have that exchange, but don't just like go back to acting like nothing happened. And that's kind of, I ain't gonna say that's what Issa tried to do, because she was like, well, I didn't know you wanted to talk about it. But essentially, like, when you have rifts in that cause that type of friction in a friendship, you can't just be like, oh girl, we need to talk about something that's completely unrelated and never come back to what the real issue is. Another thing that tells you that a friendship may be on its way out the door is if you find yourself avoiding, what I mean is, like, trying to come up with ways to really just not be around the person or to not reach out to them and talk to them. Now, that can look a couple different ways. You may have a group gathering, with a bunch of friends, and that person's gonna be there. You be like, I don't know, but you haven't confronted the fact that you have a real issue with this person. So when you want to avoid something, it's because it's something deeper there. So that's definitely a red flag. If you feel like you going out of your way to not be around this person, to not really interact with them, the friendship is probably finito. Things start to feel one-sided. So you get in a position where, like we saw with Issa, where you feel like you're trying, you're extending the olive branch, you're making the effort, and you're not feeling. Oh, sorry. Dang, I just got my nails done. They look sharp. Finally got my nails done. Okay, and these eyebrows, y'all see me? Yeah. So you feel like you giving and you ain't getting nothing back. Period, point blank. So the next thing I'm gonna go into is I have this article that I use in that group about pretty much like 5 signs that you know that a friendship is bad for your mental health. And some of this we've briefly talked about, but some of it we haven't. So, again, number 1 for them was feeling like you have to tiptoe around that person, which we kind of talked about, walking on eggshells. Again, you want to be in a friendship where you don't have to hold back. Now, that doesn't mean you communicate without compassion or empathy or sensitivity. Like, y'all know I don't like the whole, well, that's just how I feel. That doesn't give you an excuse to be rude. Like, talk to people like you love them, not like they somebody off the street, okay? So, another good one they have is excusing their behavior. Like, if you find yourself having to explain, why your friend is doing something or why they're not a bad influence to people that feel like they're not the best person to be around you, then that's a red flag. Because what we will do is we want to still be their friend. And again, this is where I talk about what you get from the friendship comes from. Because if you feel like you getting something that's really important to you, you want to make yourself feel better about spending time with them. So you have to defend them to other people in your life who are like, why do you do this? So in order to make yourself feel better about the fact that you spend time with them, you excuse all of the other messed up stuff that they may do. So this kind of goes with the whole one-sided thing. Feeling like you have to beg them to spend time with you. Now, again, everybody has their own lives. I understand that. But one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to feel like every time you try to link with this person, they got something to do. And it's not even about the fact that they have something to do. Do they try back? Well, girl, I can't do it this day, but what about this day? Like, that shows a true effort to want to link up and connect. But if you feel like every time you hitting a person, they can't do this and they can't do that and all this other stuff, and then them be the main friends that be like, girl, you don't never invite me nowhere. But when I was inviting you somewhere, you never came. So be careful and cautious about being on either side of those coins, okay? So feelings of distress when you're around them. So if you get around this person, you may start to feel anxious or on edge because you know that there's something going on within the friendship that is probably not healthy. Sometimes you may even get, one thing they mentioned is like a sense of dread. And that's where, again, tied with that avoidance piece. Like, oh, I really don't want to do this or I have to do this, for whatever reason. If you get into that point, baby, we grown. We don't have to go be around nobody that we really don't want to be around. Let's say at work. But as far as friendships, we have more autonomy. So don't convince yourself that like you have to be around this person or you have to be their friend, because history will do that. You could have been friends with somebody for so long and it just feels like that's just what it is. But you have the power to change that. And if not to change the dynamics of the friendship, because that's a two-way street. Like, you can't, within any relationship, you can't be the only one. Like, it has to take intentional effort on both parts. So if you're getting to a place where like there's dread coming up for you, then there's just something brewing here that you need to dig deeper to figure out like what's keeping you from wanting to be around this person. And is it for the best? And this is another good one. So, not feeling good enough. Pretty much, you want to be able to be around people you call friends, and not have to be so worried about being judged. I know that most of us, a sense of what other people think, like it may be exists a little bit, but if you are just constantly feeling like you try to show up for your friend and it don't be good enough, or they have to complain about it, or all these things, then you might want to take your efforts elsewhere, because there's one thing to not try. It's another thing to try and not have that recognized, and that's important for people. I also just thought about something with one of my clients who mentioned that he's lost a few friendships because he feels like there is a constant competitiveness that exists, and that's another one. Feeling like that person is either not happy for you, they're not encouraging, they don't speak life into you, they may shoot down your ideas or demean your ideas or how you think. And there's a way to disagree with people, or to give feedback without being condescending, without being demeaning. So again, if you have a friend in your life where you feel like they always trying to one up you, or if you got friends where you can't tell them certain like goals and ideas because you don't trust their intentions with the information, please pay attention to that. Because I've seen people talk about that online, like the fact that they don't want to be vocal with their support system, or people they close to, or people they supposedly are supposed to be their friends, about their goals, because they either think somebody gonna steal the idea, or it's not gonna be understood. And that's not to say everybody doesn't understand your vision, but at the very least, you should have people in your life that are going to support you while you do what you need to do to see your vision through. You know what I mean? So, I got a couple honorable mentions. One thing they mentioned in Insecure, which I felt was good, her therapist pointed out the fact that Molly's the dude she was messing with, her daddy, all these other fit people in her life had done things that she felt like were out of line, just like she feels like Issa is out of line. We need to make sure that we're extending the same grace to our friends as we do other people in our lives, especially these men. Okay, because I'm serious. Women, and I've heard different explanations for this. So women, it looks like we have a better habit of forgiving a man who's done us wrong, but when our friend does us wrong, we don't want to forgive them. And I've heard the explanation that, we trust our friend, or we've known the friend longer, all these things. And while I understand that, the person is still human and humans make mistakes. So depending on what it is, I ain't saying that friends never do anything to get cut off, because they do. But you want to make sure that, are you catastrophizing the situation? Are you making it bigger than it needs to be? And again, are you owning your part in it? Because we saw Molly wasn't owning nothing. So I think that that's important to just highlight the fact that as quick as we are to forgive these men, we need to think about, being able to reconcile our friendships when they can be. Also, prioritizing your relationship over your friends. I've talked about this before. It's not to say like when somebody gets into a relationship, things change. They do. It's unrealistic to act like they don't change. I do think, however, we still, when you're new in that relationship, want to be intentional about spending time with your friends. Because if things go left, who's going to be there? Your homegirls or homeboys. And that's not to say that you completely cut out your ex, but there's a balance that has to exist. We know, like, when women get in love, we want to be all up under that man. We could live in his skin, we would. But you can't forget about your homegirls. The friendship can't be one-sided. You can't be calling, to vent to your homegirl constantly, but when she needs the ear, you gotta go. Or you in the middle of something. or you tell her you're gonna call her back and you never call her back. So these things are really important. You want to think about the energy that you're giving out that you want to receive back from a friend, because again, unfortunately, some people they're just more passive, or they're getting something from you. It may be superficial or not, and so that's why they keep you around as a friend. But you really want to think about your role in people's lives and what are they bringing into your life, and are they dead weight? You know, and one thing I wanna end this chat on is every ended friendship doesn't have to be on a negative note. I've had friends where we've decided to love each other from afar just because we couldn't seem to get on the same page as far as how do I want to say this? As far as what we needed from the friendship, we couldn't get on the same page, and so it wasn't a fuck you. It was okay. Like, we still follow each other on social media. We still comment on each other's stuff. You know what I mean? Not comment, but we still like each other's stuff, things like that. And it wasn't bad blood, you know. And that's not to say that friendship couldn't come back, but at that moment, it just wasn't working, and it was causing more harm to keep trying versus to say, all right, you know, let's just love each other from afar. So don't always think because you end up having to distance yourself from somebody who was a really close friend that it's the end all be all, or that it has to be negative, because sometimes it's not. Like they said on Insecure, sometimes people just need some space, and once people can kind of get in a better place in their own lives and in their own mind and in their own heart, you never know what type of room can be provided for you all to reconcile and have a meaningful friendship again. But you don't want to force it. You don't want to feel like you are the one that's doing all the work. And if the person is just causing you more stress, then good. Or bad things are constantly happening when you're with them. Y'all know I'm a faith person, and I definitely believe in the works of the universe. Like, sometimes things like that are a sign. Sometimes we outgrow people. What they say, everybody can't go with you to the next level. So instead of trying to like hold on to certain relationships or friendships or whatever, sometimes we got to let that go because it's hindering us. And affiliation matters, okay? If somebody, I had to tell one of my good friends, if somebody's out there online or just being a shitty person, saying very bad things, and people know that you're friends, I'll give you, look, I ain't going to tell all the business, but yes, I had a friend who was saying some not so nice things about the LGBT community, and people know that we are friends, and people were coming to me, and I was like, oh, hold on, wait a minute. Because now I have a business and a brand, and people know that we're friends. And yes, you can feel the way that you feel, but you can't put it out there on the internet, or you can't spew hate publicly, and then it gets attached to me. No, that's a bad look. And that's another thing people have to consider. It's like when you do certain stuff, yes, it is for you at the end of the day, whatever. But other people, it's not always just you. Other people are influenced by your, or impacted is a better word, by you. Whatever you want to call it, whether that be what you do or how you act, it's never just you. I want people to get out of the feeling like that, because people think that they be doing their own demise and that it don't affect other people. It does. So we had to have a nice little chat about that, because again, you consider yourself a friend to me. A friend to me cares about what I'm trying to do in my life and understands that it's not a good look. Some friends end up not being a good look, and that's why you be having to let them go, especially if they can't understand why they're not a good look, you know. And that's not to say superficial reasons, but really, again, people losing friendships around racism right now, around homophobia, transphobia. We got all these different things where like people are really reevaluating who is in their life and what their belief systems are and what their values are. This is what I was talking about. So again, Facebook friends, Instagram friends, Twitter friends, real friends, again, these are people that we're connected with. So we have to take these relationships seriously, and we starting to really see where some people stand, and you definitely want to be standing on the right side. Okay. So that's it. I hope everybody again like continue to stay safe, quarantine if you can. Um, be precautious about going outside and delving back into life. You know how that goes. And look, keep it together, okay? We making change, black people. I'm not too political, you know. I support what I support. We know that Black Lives Matter. We've always mattered, and we're gonna continue to show people that we matter. So that's my stance on that. All right. So y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day.